So good afternoon. Thank you. Good afternoon to all the speakers and attendees. I'm Pavan, one of the founding members of Space Federation, which is a non-profit industry association which aims to advance, moderate, and streamline the interests of Indian space startups in government, media, industry, and public affairs to build a thriving space ecosystem in India. Today, we cannot imagine our lives without space-based remote sensing applications, whether it is for disaster monitoring, urban planning, crop health analysis, crop insurance, guiding fishermen, border surveillance, monitoring climate change, etc. So all these are dependent on remote sensing, satellite data, and analytics. In this context, we are very excited to bring together a session on space remote sensing applications in partnership with Blue Sky Analytics. The aim of this session is to understand the opportunities and challenges in the sector and also understand what the government can do more to enable it. So we're very fortunate to have Director of Capacity Building Program Office of ISRO, Mr. Sudheer Kumar, as our keynote speaker. So he has a great vision to enable space entrepreneurship in India, as it has potential to positively impact everyone's lives. We also have 7 wonderful speakers from startups building unique solutions. So we have also 2 minutes question and answer session after every presentation, and all attendees please feel to message your questions on the chat. So just to start off with a quick introduction about Mr. Sudheer Kumar. He was a core team member for realizing Asia's largest solid rocket propellant plant and the largest rocket integration facility at ISRO, and also like state-of-art mission control centers, radars, etc. Presently, he is Director of Capacity Building Program Office at ISRO headquarters and responsible for industrialization, indigenization, technology transfer, technical infrastructure, and outreach activities of ISRO. So without much wait, I call upon Mr. Sudheer Kumar to give his keynote.
Thank you, Pavan. Thanks, SpaceFed and team members, all my boys, what I could see. Former ISRO employees, entrepreneurs, and going to be big shots of the Indian industry community. Thanks a lot. Rather, I should put it across like this: see challenges, the opportunities. Better you people know better than anybody else because you have gone through ups and downs during your initial days and came out as a successful winners in your own field. I'll put it in this way rather than telling the opportunities and challenges. Everybody knows in the remote sensing, at least people like SatSure, Blue Sky Analytics, and Satyukt is also there. I think these guys who are really implementing the GIS or remote sensing applications across the country and across even beyond the Indian, let us say, limits. I will put the discussions like this. Rather, there is a demand and supply gap. There is a demand. That the demand is a hidden demand because most of our GIS applications and remote sensing applications, the user is government. Through government, the users are, you call it as farmers, or you call it as local governance, you call it as maybe industries. Probably the enabling features is more like through government. The gateway is through government. But is there a way to, let us say, keep the government as a parallel track, because government also should enable all the industry and startup people to generate the revenue models and generate the opportunities. See, here the question is, now Indian government has opened the gates for the non-government private entities to penetrate more into the space domain. It is obviously a child will tell, now it is a much matured level, which business yields more revenue without much investment. You take it as satellite industry or launch vehicle industry, risks are involved, investments are involved, testing procedures, so many security features, policies, so many things are involved. But definitely, once that only generates the revenue for applications, that I do agree. It is not that ignoring the launch vehicle and space satellite areas, but it is like a matchstick, in the fields, the good olden the village days. In the villages, you would have observed heaps of grass after cultivation. A small matchstick is enough to flare up the entire heap of maybe 100 tons of heap. Maybe height would be 2 times the building height. One small matchstick is enough. So it's like that. One, it's matchstick. If it is like satellite or launch vehicle, the heap is like your applications. I don't mean that firing. That is creating the business. Analogy could be taken in that way. So the applications is no way inferior to the high tech or deep tech thing. And nowadays, after learning the artificial intelligence, machine learning, I was listening through our SatSure on the day webinar. It was quite impressive. You call it as soil investigation, you call it as land use, land mapping, using artificial intelligence and machine learning, deep learning techniques. One can derive the best out of the data available, whatever the way the data is given to the user. So that the applications, especially remote sensing, especially in India, where the land use land coverage is huge, and we are far below than the world average. Let's say per capita agricultural cultivation, if you take somewhere I have read, it is almost in the Canada and Brazil kind of things, we are far behind. So what it makes, is it the metadata analysis that we are lacking, or is it the unknown hidden thing what we are unable to bridge? How to improve the land use, how to improve, who will build the cat? Now the question is two, it appears to me. One is to find out the user and to get connected with the user. Whether the user is the government or local farmers or local governance like agricultural directors or district magistrates or even panchayat level commissioners. I think what I mean to say, they are not available, they are not aware how a space application will fetch them revenue. Probably I think the corporates have been doing, like yesterday on the other day I was reviewing one scan point, one company who has taken technology concepts from us, from ISRO, maybe way back 2005, and they have developed some models, and they were implementing the same JS application tools in Surat and in some part of Gujarat, Satellitee. That's what they were told me, and they were keen in implementing the GIS tools for 20 to 25 cities, metropolitan cities or cosmopolitan cities. And the same is being done by S3, same is being done by Hexagon, as I was noted. But ultimately, the village, the urban areas, if it is covered, what about the taluk headquarters, the districts, the villages? Definitely, I could see some revenue model. That model has to be evolved. In what way that model has to be evolved? I think you people as a group should come out and say that, so this is the model that is required. Probably if any initiation is required from your side or from your organization, because you are free to knock the doors of anybody. I could see you are touching the doors of Prime Minister of India and you are touching the doors of NSA, PSA kind of thing. Whereas I am not seeing the same kind of enthusiasm and interest being taken by the corporates. So definitely, and they are listening to you. The present government is more towards generating the employment and encouraging the enthusiastic graduates, postgraduates, and PhDs, not to let the people go out for employment. Encouraging, lot of schemes are there, supporting schemes are there, funding schemes are there. So now we have to see, you people have to come forward as a, and you have to tell us, look, this is the revenue model that exists. This is the support that we require. Let us say if it calls for some kind of concept being given by ISRO or any, let us say, urban ministry or fisheries ministry, a vetting to be required for qualifying the model. So that kind of things you have to come forward and say that we want this kind of service, rather than generally mentioning that we want a support from space domain, space industry, or national space agency. I want this particular model is available. You need not to disclose your proprietariness. You can only say that this model has been evaluated or validated from our side using this data. And this we have done the field studies also, and our model, we claim that it is. But if it's a vetting is done or certification is done by the authority, okay, some kind of value addition will be there for such kind of models, and that model you have to take it to either. The second important thing is scaling up. Let us say some people are satisfied, okay, how to scale it up, how to reach it to the more number of people to generate employment, how to reach it to the more number of enthusiastic guys. It could be a startup or it could be a model. I was advocating one model, like in Andhra, there is a model like Me Seva. These Me Seva centers are everywhere, maybe in a district quarters, maybe 15 to 20 centers are there. These are the guys who help the people to pay electricity bills, to register for Aadhaar, to make some kind of all governmental ways are there. No, these Me Seva centers does. Like that, let's say somebody wants to take encouragement certificate. So he has to approach a particular GIS application center or GIS resource center, and if he wants to get a map of it. On the other day, my brother happened to be the agricultural director in Guntur district. He was asking cadastral maps. Pradeep, I think it is cadastral maps, I think. So he was asking. Then I said, look, why it is not available to you? Then I called NRS guys. Then they said, okay, one person we have identified for the entire Andhra Pradesh. And I do not know, after that, they never came back. I easily connected them. They were telling NRS people, you please come, who stops you? Come to us and you get to know how to generate the same thing using Bhuvan, and you yourself can work it out. So such a kind of, there is, I could see a lot of the demand and the supply gap. The demand could be the requirements, the supply could be resources. There is a huge gap between these two. I don't know, the speakers of the demand, unable to reach, unable to satisfy the customers, ultimately the users of that particular data. This is where I could see, because in this area investments are pretty lower. Wisdom is only the investment, knowledge is only the investment, and you have tasted that knowledge. Probably I think you people have to sit together and come out with a solution, and come out with some kind of revenue model. How we can, let's say, can we go to chief ministers of the respective state and move the proposals? It is not enough, because they only give one particular paper. Yes, this particular application can be. Again, we have to go to the next commissioners at region level, district magistrates at district level, maybe commissioners or municipal commissioners at municipality level, sarpanch level. So unless otherwise this kind of connectivity is created, I don't think the GS applications will reach to the bottommost layer. Definitely today it is in place, I am not telling that it is not in place, but when you wanted to compete with the world GS, everybody says that this remote sensing applications is the power of the nation. When you have a complete layered map, what you call it as, you put the roads on that one, you put water lines on that one, you put network connections on that one, you put internet lines on that one, you put electricity lines, all these things. When you construct a building, the different things will superimpose one after the other on the drawing. If you put entire thing, see, you can see just the imagine, you call it as traffic system, traffic management. Today, if you just Google it, if you want to try it out, one train where it is, three different apps will tell three different outputs. So there should be some mechanism, even integrating the remote sensing applications with the navigation application, with maybe some kind of other applications and IoT. And that is the model which we have to think. So where you stand, what you lack, what support you require from corporates, what support you require from government, that some discussion is required. Because for startups, there is abundant enthusiasm, abundant fire in the belly, abundant energy, and decision making is very fast. You can just flip through within no time, you can take the decision. But either with the government or with the corporates, this process will take considerable amount of time. And for they never venture into small level of let's say reaching to the customers. So I thought I should share my agony or whatever you call it as fire in my mind or unrest in my mind. You come out with such kind of model, and we are there with you to take you further, because you are not so immature to tell to get note what are the opportunities. These are all known to you people. Enough opportunities are there, much better than us, I should say. Maybe professionals from ISRO may be knowing a little bit more than you, but we like people definitely not knowing more than what you know in this field, because you are nurtured a lot. So what I feel, the revenue model is one important. The second thing is scaling up, how to reach the all the users in a limited or in less time. What are all the resources that are required in a collaborative approach, whether you wanted to make some clusters. For that clusters, if you want some kind of funding from the government or funding from corporates, these kind of things probably corporates can do, but they will definitely cannot do the way you people are doing on the ground. So this is what I could see in the last 3 years after started understanding the ground realities of this, especially GIS applications and remote sensing applications. I think you should define the role, how actually India should be, maybe after 4 years or after 5 years, after 10 years, that roadmap the GIS application should tell. And you have to drive both the corporates and government, because you know the ground realities better than anybody else. I thought with these few words, I thought I will leave the speakers to speak about the specifics. And at the end, probably you will come out with some kind of recommendations from the webinar that we have to document it, and we'll keep proceeding with a positive note. Thank you.
So thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot for the amazing speech and message to all entrepreneurs. And the catch is that remote sensing applications are the power of the nation. So thanks for saying that. So we have some time for a couple of questions from the audience.
Thank you, Mr. Sudheer, for that very nice note. The first, we have one question from Lizul Imran, who is saying, um, when will ISRO move on to electric propulsion technologies? If you would like to address that at this point.
See, electrical propulsion, all these things are in the what you call, these are all basically we have to use the flight worthy items, and our design should commensurate, because the any new system, it will undergo change mechanism that anybody who knows about the satellite technology will know. The interfaces, when they change, it will go into a very different kind of process. Okay, so second thing is seeing is believing. When our payloads and our capacities are just commensurate to the known technology, taking a risk is another thing which we have to take very cautiously and in a time-bound manner. Probably I think our people are very much interested or working on not only electrical propulsion, not in the nuclear propulsion, etc. I think research is going on and interface mechanisms are being under study. I think for future missions soon, test this one should be done, followed by the implementation. Time scale, it is very difficult, because they're all technological things which we have committed, because one satellite application, if satellite if you have to do, we have to start the procurement process 2 years or 3 years before. Okay, timeline may be difficult to say, but definitely it is possible.
Okay. So thank you, sir, for answering that. Sir, now we'll go to the presentations, and I think we'll get back to you after the presentations to just take your views after that as well. So please stay, sir. And with that, I'll move on to the next, presentations. So we have 7 speakers from our startup ecosystems who will be presenting about their unique solutions. To start with, we have Blue Sky Analytics, which is a geospatial data intelligence startup leading the fight against air pollution, water crisis, and environmental degradation by building exemplary data products that can assist global customers in quantifying climate risk and making sustainable investment decisions. So inviting Yashika Maheshwari, strategy lead at Blue Sky Analytics, to present now.
Good afternoon, everyone. Is my screen visible?
Yeah, we can see it.
Got it. Good afternoon. I'm Yashika. I'm the strategy lead at Blue Sky Analytics. I'm sure in the recent months, all of us have heard about multiple instances of extreme weather events. I mean, currently there is a crisis going on in Maharashtra, but generally what we do is Maharashtra always has rains and they're used to it, right? But have you realized how much these crises have become much more frequent, much more unpredictable, and much more alarming in the recent times? Similarly, the heat waves that are happening in British Columbia, or the floods that are happening in Germany, Netherlands, in China, people died in subways because they had unpredictable rains recently, right? So that's for that. In order to understand that, the common factor is climate change. And what we need going forward is a holistic understanding. Now, why is this holistic understanding necessary? For example, if we only look at one parameter, right? Like if we were looking at heat waves, so we would figure out that British Columbia would have heat waves. But what we wouldn't figure out is that those heat waves would lead to air quality that is not fit for us, and those heat waves would at the same time lead to wildfires. Climate is an ecosystem, and we need to look at all of it in a holistic sense, and that is where Blue Sky Analytics comes in. We use satellite data and AI to build environmental data sets in order to monitor climate change in real time. We provide these data sets via AI. So essentially, we are a downstream data analytics company from India who are building the tech for the world. We have products around air quality monitoring and monitoring of farm and forest fires. Going forward, we want to have products for flood risk, drought risk, heat waves, etc. The idea, there are generally two questions that we get in terms of our value proposition. The first one being, how does satellite data help, right? So I'll give you an example. Before we built our air quality product, there were 250 data points for PM 2.5 in India. With our air quality product, there are 3.3 million data points. Why does this matter? Because according to WHO, air quality literally changes at every square kilometer. So that is the amount of data we need to actually figure out what is the air quality in the area that you are staying in, right? The other question that we generally get is what do we add, right? What do we add to the data that is provided by ISRO, NASA, any of the organizations that are providing this data for free? What we add is new parameters essentially. So if you look at it, satellite data does not provide PM 2.5. It also does not provide CO2 emissions as of now. But what we do is we use the parameters provided by satellite data, put our analytics and models on top of that, and come up with new parameters like CO2 emissions from farm and forest fires or PM 2.5. Okay. So one of the questions that I would like to address is, what are the opportunities in this area? Currently, what is happening is climate change at a level that is unprecedented. And as a result, climate models are not working because these models are based on historical data and not real-time data. What we need now is real-time data. Also, according to a recent report, more than 50% of the essential climate variables can only be tracked through satellite data, which is where satellite data becomes very important in the climate tech sector. Climate tech is going to boom. According to a recent report, it will be 3x times of what it was in 2020 by 2025. So the nexus of climate space becomes extremely important for the next decade. Oftentimes people call the next decade as the decade of climate action, because post 2030, we will be in a state that we will not be able to save the earth. But what we say wrong is we are not saving the earth, we are saving ourselves. Earth will still exist once everything happens. We are the ones who will go extinct. So yeah. How can ISRO help? So ISRO has been in existence since 1969, which means ISRO has a lot of data available, right? Especially for our subcontinent. So great initiative for the private companies would be access to this data via a cloud and via APIs. The APIs become important for us because our use case is near real-time data, right? So when we take data in bulk, it becomes impossible for us to provide this data in near real-time, which is why we need this data to be in the API format so that it can be directly integrated with our systems and provided to other people, provided to our clients or anybody who wants to understand climate better. Another thing that ISRO could do is for the new organizations, they could provide data as a grant. This would motivate them to work in this space more, to become part of the geospatial ecosystem. The expertise of ISRO also lies in the fact that they know how to process geospatial data, as well as the models that can be applied on it to get insights. So there could be a research partnership between public and private sector, which would be really helpful to new entrants in this market, as well as people who are already doing it, because I don't think anybody has as much expertise as ISRO does at this point in this space, considering they're here from 1969. Yeah, these are some of the organizations who have appreciated or recognized our data sets. So Climate Trace is a collation by Al Gore, ex-vice president of US, MIT Solve, European Space Agency Social Alpha, Schmidt Future, and Patrick J. McGovern organization. Yeah, thank you. I would like to open the floor for questions.
Thank you so much, Yashika, for giving a great overview of Blue Sky and also telling us how satellite data can help with understanding climate change, especially in real time, as you mentioned. Are there any questions for Yashika? I don't see any in the...
I think Sudheer sir has a question. He has.
Yes.
Yashika, especially the IMD, ISRO is collaborating for establishing the towers for aerosol measurement across the country. This is the international network, what I understood. These data, a lot of publications have been done by so many people, so many researchers. Have you come across such kind of thing in your second research?
So actually what the Blue Sky is doing, the research has already been done by scientists. So what we're doing is we're just productizing it, because while research is done for a particular area, we're scaling up to India and then globally. So we're actually taking research from people like Dr. Savnik, who's a professor at IIT Delhi, or other professors in this area itself.
No, I am not expecting you to do research, but data is available even for researchers. So have you come across what is the sources of these data, either from IMD or from other than ISRO sources? Because these are all funded projects by ISRO, especially for aerosol measurement.
So we are currently not using, we're using data set right now from ECMWF. So we've not used AOD data.
Yeah. You just note this point and you just send me a message. I'll also pursue, okay? Because recently I came to know this particular projects. I'll also just connect you to the concerned people.
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir.
And this particular, your request has been forwarded to SAT, because I am personally talking, because since last week I was not there. I will also just close that issue as early as possible.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions for Yashika? Maybe we can take one more. Okay, I think we can proceed, Pawan.
Yeah, so moving on. To see the unseen, Pixxel is on a mission to build a health monitor for the planet through building India's first constellation of cutting-edge commercial hyperspectral small satellites. Inviting Awais Ahmed, CEO of Pixxel, to give his presentation, and also we're very excited to have him on leadership at SpaceFed as well. Okay, he's joined us recently as part of leadership at Space Federation as well. So inviting Awais to give his presentation.
Thank you, Pawan. Hi, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to be able to present as well. I am going to be sharing the screen here. Let me know if you're able to see this. So Pixxel is a space technology company, of course, but we call ourselves a space data company because there's two critical aspects to that, the space aspect and the data aspect. There's hardware in space that's working to get you data, but then you also have to know what to do with that data to extract actionable information that you can use in the real world for agriculture, oil and gas, environment, climate change, and whatnot. So we're building a constellation of hyperspectral imaging satellites. It'll be the first of its kind in the world. And we're also building a platform where people can come in and extract insights out of this data, providing the tools and the softwares for them to be able to do this. When we started with just analyzing satellite data that was available, whether it was the open source Sentinel data set, whether it was the open source ISRO data set, whether it was commercial data set that Planet provided. Something that we realized was that there were certain issues that these satellites could not even see. For example, when you look at water pollution across the globe, just the loss from water pollution is in billions of US dollars every year. Apart from the immense harm it causes the environment, there's physical, financial loss that's occurring here. Or when you look at agriculture globally, we realize that every year we see newspapers articles on how many crops you have lost due to pests or diseases, and it's estimated that all crops grown annually, 40% of that are lost to pests because we are not able to catch them in time. And we need data sets for us to be able to do this globally. Or if you're looking at oil and gas leaks, natural gas leaks, which again create havoc with air pollution, or even lead to losses to these companies, that's something that we've not been able to do in time. And the reason for that is, even though satellite imagery and satellite data have been used for a variety of purposes, map making, for applications in agriculture, oil and gas mining, we needed better type of imagery for us to be able to do that. So that's what we started with. We started with realizing while working with data that existing data could be made much, much better. The satellites that are there are blind to these problems, not limited to these. And that's where we came in. We said, we should be able to build and deploy a better kind of satellite that can do a much richer type of imaging, something that can beam down 10, 20, 50 times richer data than what is available in space today. And that's where the idea of hyperspectral imaging constellation came into the picture. The plan formulated that we will build and deploy a constellation of satellites that will cover the globe and will provide us with an image of every place on Earth every day. So we are not missing what's happening, whether it be the North Pole or the South Pole, whether it be this continent or that continent. We should know what's happening first to be able to build a health monitor for the planet. We need to know how the health of it is changing, whether it's improving in certain areas, whether it's deteriorating in some other areas. And the only data set that will enable us to do that at scale and in the years to come will be satellite imagery. And the data set that will be required to get us that rich data would be hyperspectral. What exactly is hyperspectral imaging, and why is it sort of special? I would sort of take a brief primer here. There's three types of imaging you talk about when you talk about optical imaging. You have RGB, multispectral, hyperspectral. When you take an image from your phone camera, that's an RGB image. Everything that you see is a combination of red, green, and blue wavelengths. Everything that you take with your DSLR camera is an RGB image. So you're getting information in three channels: R, G, and B, red, green, and blue. When you looked at the night vision goggles that the army uses, where you're able to see normally during the day, but in the night you're able to see the heat signature standing out in the dark. That's an example of a multispectral image, where you are able to see things in the visible range, but also a few in the infrared range. So you're going from information in 3 channels in RGB to information in about 10 or 20 channels in multispectral. And the satellites that are up there today from which you can get commercial data today are either RGB or multispectral. What is needed is hyperspectral data, which gives you information in all the bands in the visible and infrared range. And this information in hundreds of channels is what enables us to see things in a lot more detail. What does that translate to in real life? Here's a real world example. On the left is a satellite image taken from Google Earth. On the right is a hyperspectral image of the same lake, Lake Geneva in Switzerland. What you cannot see with imagery today is you cannot see that the lake is contaminated. You cannot see whether there's plankton present, algae present. You cannot see what crop is growing. You cannot see what material the road is made out of. And that is the basic premise that applies across all the industries that I just talked about. That's why hyperspectral is necessary, and that's why hyperspectral is going to be the next step for Earth observation. What exactly do we do at Pixxel? We design our satellites, we build these satellites, we deploy them in space through the help of organizations like ISRO, SpaceX, Rocket Lab. Our first satellite is in fact launching on an ISRO rocket. We have partners around the globe who have their own ground stations who we partner with to get this data down, and then it gets uploaded to a centralized cloud repository. And we have a platform where people can come in and search for this data. They can tell us what they want, and then they can extract data, or they can even analyze data with ready to deploy machine learning or image processing algorithms. The use cases and industries are many. I talked about agriculture use case there, oil and gas leakages, especially from a compliance perspective, making sure that these spills that cause harm to the environment are capped on time. Even with respect to mining, making sure that when particular mining companies go out and deforest a particular part of land for mining activities, they're supposed to reforest another part of land to make sure that they're actually doing that. Understanding whether the city of Bangalore has lakes, what is the water quality of the lakes in this city or that city. So there are multiple industries, not limited to the ones here on screen, where hyperspectral specifically shines over what is available today. So essentially what you're getting with hyperspectral is, instead of a 2D view that you get from satellite imagery today, where you can either say it's a healthy or unhealthy crop, you're getting information about what the biophysical parameters are, what the soil nitrogen content is, what the chlorophyll content is, whether a particular part of land is under irrigated or irrigated, what species of crop is growing there. And that's the level of granularity we need if we need to build a health monitor for our planet. Our first satellite, in fact, is already built. It has been tested. We were the first private company ever to test our satellite at ISRO's facility here in Bangalore. And the image that you see here is the actual satellite that is completely ready for launch, undergone all levels of testing. And it's launching in October on an ISRO rocket. There's a second satellite that we are working on as we speak, that is also booked for a December 2021 SpaceX launch. So 2 satellites that will go up this year. These will be the first 2 private commercial Earth imaging satellites from India, but it'll also be one of the first commercial hyperspectral satellites in the world. The roadmap is, as I mentioned, we don't want to stop with just 2 satellites. The plan is to have enough satellites and enough data so that no matter where you are in the globe, you're able to see things changing on a daily basis. And only when you see things changing on a daily basis can you build the models that will enable you to firstly detect if there's a problem, monitor these problems, and predict or prevent certain things from happening, especially as we move into this decade. And the plans don't stop there. Of course, remote sensing doesn't have to be limited to Earth. The plans are also to be able to work with space agencies like ISRO, NASA, ESA, JAXA to be able to do remote sensing on the Moon, Mars, the asteroid belt, where the same technology that enables us to do this on Earth, hyperspectral imaging, will enable us to do it for the rest of the solar system as well. So I think that's broadly about us. We're building a constellation of the world's first hyperspectral satellites. The data that will beam down will enable 20 to 50 times increment in the kinds of analysis you can do in multiple industries. And that hyperspectral data is what will enable us to see the unseen. So thanks again for the opportunity. Happy to take any questions if there are any.
Thank you for your presentation, Awais. It was really interesting to see how we can capture so much more information with the help of hyperspectral satellites. And also, good luck for your upcoming launches. Any questions from the audience? In the interest of time, I think we can take one question if anybody wants to.
Hey Prakash, I think answering your question, when will the data from our satellites be available for research? So I think one, we want to make clear that there's going to be commercial applications to this, but there's going to be a major chunk of the data we're going to make open source for research on climate change and how we can take this data and use that for those purposes. The data should start coming down for usage in December of this year. So October we launch, we're assuming a month worth of calibration, validation efforts for the data. And then by December, you should have the data in your hands. Answering Bhanu's question quickly, how are we able to conclude that this would solve the issues you have mentioned? I think one, NASA had built the world's first hyperspectral satellite that they open source the data from. ISRO has also very recently launched the HISIS satellite, from where you have the data. Research has come out already that these are the things you can do with hyperspectral that you can't do with existing RGB or multispectral. So there's already research that's done through either drone hyperspectral imagery or earlier hyperspectral data that's not available anymore. And that's how we know that these issues can be solved.
Thanks, Awais. Kunal, I think we'll have to take up your questions later. I'll give the floor back to Pavan so that we can proceed with the rest of the presentations.
Yeah, so thank you, Awais. So next we have SatSure, which is an innovative decision analytics startup. leveraging advances in satellite remote sensing, machine learning, and big data analytics to provide answers to large area questions across the domains of agriculture, banking and finance service, infrastructure, and climate change mitigation. So inviting Pradeep Basu, CEO of SatSure, to present more.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Thanks, Pawan, for the kind introduction, and thank you, SpaceFed, for inviting me to speak. Indeed, I was gonna speak about the usual work that people associate SatSure with, but after Sudheer sir's nice introductory speech, I changed my presentation. I'm gonna surprise people because not many people know what we do beyond agriculture. So let me give a quick background of the company for people who are coming to know about us for the first time. We are a fairly, I would say, young startup. It's 60 people with very interesting international team. Some of us come from ISRO background. We have people coming from Planet Labs, SSTL, who are based out in the entities that are outside of India. So we have basically two entities. Bangalore is the global service center, service delivery center, and Switzerland is the headquarter. And we are a very fast-growing team, although slightly older than few of the space startups. Now, what we are doing at SatSure is essentially making data from space consumable. So you sir mentioned very interestingly about the land cadastral boundaries, how the value addition on top of it through remote sensing can be done. And that's a major challenge. People are doing mostly focused on getting to one place, but it's the data fusion aspect which actually creates value. And that's what we are doing, not in a manual service way, but completely changing the space around which software, AI, and space technology meets. So just to give a quick oversight, we are having quite an elaborate today product line with our data engine Sparta as the core. And today I'll be speaking about our construction monitoring product, SatSure Skies, which is what probably most people who know us still don't know. So let me start with a case study. What you see here is an image taken at certain time instance. What you see here is the same place taken at another time instance. You probably could have understood that there was a change. There was some building that has come up. Now, when you do a pixel by pixel analysis on to detect the changes, you see those dark pixels that have appeared that captured that change. There was also dark pixel at the bottom of the bottom center of the image that have come, which you probably might have missed in the quick scene that how I switched. Now, imagine just by eyeballing, we will miss this. How do you do this kind of change detection at scale? That's what we are doing, and this goes much beyond the agriculture monitoring aspect, which is definitely not an easy thing to crack. But then the challenges around high resolution data is something else. And we today are we have deployed pipelines to where these algorithms have been built, validated, accepted by the industry, and are today operating in a pure enterprise SaaS format. So it's not just buildings; it's also roads. And it would people may find it funny that we are even able to detect at what stage road is, meaning that even if it is bituminous stage or at a early stage, those kind of inspection possibilities from a EPC company, insurance perspective for highways, etc. We are providing using a combination of openly available radar data for surface deformation and high resolution data for the actual optical sensing. And these are not just delivered as reports. This is completely available on software where they can detect the changes, damages, etc., causality around it, because there are multi-sensor data insights fed into it. Whether it was a flood due to a new extreme rainfall, or it was damage due to excessive winds. And this is completely changing the way insurance is done. I mean, just to give you an understanding of the insurance rates, and these are proprietary information. About 150 kilometers of national highway would have a sum insured of 800 crores. Now imagine how much highways you have in India, what's your market size. And we are not just working around this insurance sector. We have completely revolutionized the way in which property and mortgage lending happens, especially in a post-COVID area, where again, I'll come back to Sudheer sir's important aspect of land verification, post-disbursement monitoring, land verification based on the Khatra number, the survey number. Now, there are challenges around it, but most of the state governments have today, under the Digital India program, Digital Land Digitization program, have opened up the portals with the boundaries of each and every property. Today we are able to bring all of that, the identification of the boundary along with the ownership of who it belongs to, and then providing that information as on the tool banks, and then helping them not only underwrite that property but also monitor that property through the construction stages post disbursement, because their loan milestones are linked to this. And on top of that, they get additional information related to climate vulnerability risk, socioeconomic ratings, which becomes like a supplementary report to the bureau ratings of the loanees. And this is one of the kind of applications that most people again haven't really cracked. And because the volumes for us is so high, we recently went and announced our own fleet of satellites. When I say our own fleet of satellites, we are not going to do the satellites. We are a complete data analytics company. We just want two things to be with us. Number one is payload. Number two is our processor. And we are open to working with the industry for both the platforms, ATLAT Bus, as well as the launches, because our vision is very simple: develop a full stack technology firm with operating assets in space, a platform running in the cloud, and enterprise software suite servicing the infrastructure and also sub product of agriculture product line. So what SatSure Argus, which is the fleet name, enables us to do is we are designing the entire payload specs, orbit design, everything based on our set of applications. We are not selling that image outside. It's a completely captive system for us, which is again a very new and unheard way of doing business in the space industry. And that's because we are not coming from a technology first approach. It's a business and market first approach. We are obviously looking at a very disruptive service level, where the edge processing on board a satellite enables us to provide on-demand analytics from the satellites. A quick overview of how we are getting started. We have our first, it's divided into three phases. We are flying the onboard processing processor this December. So we'll start getting the data from next year, March. We have the first payload flying again December, January of next year. So we'll have the first set of our own data sets coming, and the complete fleet will be commissioned by 2023. And it's also unheard of that a company without having raised any venture fund is doing something like this. So with that, I will like to close my speech, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that people may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Pradeep, for sharing some of your insider information as well as giving an overview of SatSure and what you guys are up to. Any questions for Pradeep? Okay, I think Kunal has this question. What recommendations do you have for the government to strengthen the space startup ecosystem?
That's a question I cannot answer in front of the government itself, right? So you have Sudheer sir there. So, but the short answer is, I think the government is already doing everything that it can, and it's a very good sign, especially with key people in the space sector, especially ISRO, having pushed through different reforms. You have InSpace, which has been formed. CBPO has been driving so many initiatives with startups. I believe one thing which perhaps could be looked at, and this is a direct recommendation to Sudheer sir, is the kind of government buying that happens from space startups at an early stage. There's this company called Umbra Space. I don't know if you have heard of it, sir. These guys got like a $950 million contract, and what, 2 years they started from obviously defense. But then, sir, you're a 2-year startup and getting $950 million ceiling contract. It's just crazy, right? I mean, that kind. I'm not saying that the government should start buying like this in India, but at least if there is a provision to create a process like what they have, IDIQ and SBIR. SBIR is, slightly smaller level of funding. But it's not like you give the money to a startup to grow. It's more like you give the money to a startup to develop something which is meant for to service the government. In this case, it could be, you know, gaps that ISRO is facing as it's also expanding into human space exploration, etc. So yeah, that's one thing which I would say could help. Any other
Mr. Sudheer, would you like to share your thoughts on that?
I fully agree with Pradeep. See, thing is, government. Why the government has been given? Probably, I think this total decision could be from DIPP, that Defense Production DP. Okay. I do not have much of this one, but one thing is sure, because today government is expecting ISRO to do more research, and they don't want us to do the routine works. But only thing is, who will fill the gap? If they are satisfied with you all people meeting the requirements of the government needs, probably I think that day is not very far. That's what my always agree is, you please, time is the essence of anything, because whatever you wish to do, probably if you do it in pockets, that's what I shared with you also when I personally visited your place. So one my suggestion, or let us say a thing is, let us say you are developing beautiful tools, you keep your propriety, you keep your IP, but is there any way for you to sell these products like Microsoft, like anybody, Adobe, to make use of the people? To it also creates the employment. And I was going back onto the same model, the village resource centers model, so that these guys, you organize a training, you encourage few more startups to train these modules and implement it. One is developing, which requires knowledge and other experiences. Another one is certification, maybe to get a brand of that, and you yourself will become a brand after some time. You don't require a certification further. The third very important thing is scalability. How you make these tools available to multiple folds, so that the entire community, the entire country where millions of users are there, they will make use of your tool. You can still keep the proprietariness, you need not to disclose. Pradeep, this particular thing I am just throwing, you can have a internal thinking of this and come out with some kind of solution that will help the country.
Sure, sir. Thank you for your kind comments. There is a question here, if you want me to answer that.
Yeah, if you can take that briefly.
Can
Yeah,
you repeat that question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay.
Do you want to go ahead, Pati?
Sure, okay. I'll just read it out. Why have edge processing capabilities, example, GPUs on the satellite and not on the ground? Okay, that's from Yashika. So GPUs on the ground, well, I mean, that we are anyhow doing. Why have GPUs on the satellite is because multiple things. I'll just tell you one big challenge, right? We should look at how much amount of usable data we are downloading. The entire industry metric of, oh, there's only 70 million square kilometers we are imaging per day, you know, planet and all keep harping about. Out of that, I mean, just look at Earth. You have only 17% of Earth's area that is where you are imaging, and that also falls mostly in the tropics area where you have continuous cloud cover. So you end up paying for your downlink costs by downlinking actually unusable data most of the time. So just to reject those information, you have to have some kind of system there. Okay, that's the first part. That's the biggest value proposition. Only downlink and spend money on usable images. Now, for doing that, why have a GPU? I mean, the usual way of doing cloud masking is take a thresholding approach on the pixel per pixel. But here, you take a deep learning approach to delineate between cloud, haze, and doing it on the fly. It's not on the OBC. Your OBC is not capable of doing that. You have to essentially do an FPGA programming with a accelerator, AI accelerator, where you are running these models in parallel. That's number one. Number two is, if you looked at the presentation, Ashika, you could make out probably that our applications go much beyond finance and insurance. And there are reasons where people would need that analytics immediately. They don't have time to go and task, then wait for the ground station to send your data to the cloud and then do a processing using some ArcGIS or AirDAX tool. You have to have instant information like emergency response, tactical strategic defense applications, basically, where within 3 hours of putting a request, you have the final output directly into your system. That's another reason.
Thank you, Pradeep. I think in the interest of time, we can move on. Over to you, Pawan.
Yeah. So thanks, Pradeep. Next, we have another interesting startup, Numerate, which is building the likes of a Google map for fishing, which helps fishermen to be more profitable while using sustainable means of fishing, while also giving seafood consumers benefit from traceability, quality, and supply chain guarantee. So inviting Nishad, the data scientist at Numerate, to present now.
Hi. I'm actually presenting on behalf of Devlina. She's CEO of Numerate. Unfortunately, she's in field talking with fishermen and marketing the app. So we are developing an basically addressing the issue of sustainable, traceable and profitable seafood supply chain. So basically, if you're seeing the background of fishing industry, it is in a major supporter of a large patch of population in coastal part of country. So if you're seeing globally, it is about 800 million people are depending on fish-based industrial revenue. So its revenue is like 2.5 trillion, and it encompasses about 3 billion people, this industry. But it has a very major issue of it is highly disintegrated. Fisher folks are financially suffering, and on the other spectrum, buyers are suffering on the quality, and in the ocean, the background of industry, it suffered majorly based on the overfishing and other environmental degradations. So what we are intended to do is to develop a suite of products to support the fisher folks, to spend less on the marine on the fishery side, and earn more, and assure the quality on the wild, and guarantee a supply chain to the seafood consumers. So we have starting from the supply chain while fishing, supporting the operational cost advisories, weather advisories, and marine advisories, and tracking the expense. So some kind of a enterprise software support system for the fisher folks. And after the fisher folks is got the officials, and supporting through sales and earning the money from the catch, like using online trading platform, and giving a support for the market discovery platforms. And during the delivery, we are supporting this comes to in consumer side, supporting through traceability and quality monitoring, tracking and tracing. And in the final spectrum, we are going to the fishermen's, like supporting livelihood supports like micro insurance or finance. So it's in basically in a app ecosystem, and it's starting from the on spectrum of fisherman going into the marine sea and catching the fish to the supply chain. So if you're basically seeing the landscape, the app ecosystem, it's like using satellite-based potential fishing zone identification, and supporting that data to fisher folks, and supporting through the hyperlocal weather data, and giving in a traceability and tracking of fishes are being captured by who and where. We are supporting the QR code based track and trace of seafood, and GPS and IoT based vessel communication, and combining with the app based livelihood support. So then we will be coming to the seafood vendors, where we will be having a business side into that, and it's like an app-based e-commerce platform, and giving in location intelligence in terms of where the fish and its traceability, and it comprised of seafood consumer governments and microfinance involves, where our whole supply chain support we are intended to do. So it's the basic business landscape. It's like we are having in a subscription-based app, similarly, and seafood vendors and seafood consumers. So it's basically we are the app is in the market, and we are supporting the fishermen, like during the COVID lockdown periods and all, we could increase the net income of fisher folks whoever is using our app, like reducing the fuel cost by 35% and increase the sales margin by 10%. So we are also having a support training and other activities to improve the awareness creation on fisher folk side, and so it's basically our objective is to address the sustainable development goals in the 4 major points of sustainable development goals created by United Nations, like zero hunger and improve the life below water, marine overfishing to avoid or reduce the impact of overfishing and other impacts of seafood industry, and generating a responsible consumption and production, like traceability and tracking where the fish is being collected, and fish details about the fish and reduce the inequality in the society, like improving the fisher folk finance. So it's basically our team is comprised of data scientists and data architects and cloud engineers. Yeah, this is about background of our product, and we have 2 requirements basically to ISRO. First, on open data. Basically, we are most of our products and analytical data we are giving to the fisher folks is based on open data majorly. Like currently we are using NASA or Sentinel data instead of the homegrown ISRO-based data. And second request or ask is that marine communications. So we have developed this app, and this app we cannot use from above 20 nautical miles into the sea. The fisher folks cannot use because the data communication issues. So is there any possibility to support the data communication to and fro between ground station or ground land and the deep sea fisher folks? It will be a very much advantage to use this kind of app for the fisher folks and improve their livelihood. That is it about our presentation. Thank you for giving the opportunity.
Thank you, Nishad, for your presentation. I think after watching Seaspiracy, unsustainable practices in the seafood supply chain have caught everyone's interest. So it's great to see a remote sensing application addressing that problem. Any questions for Nishad from the other speakers or the audience? Um, in that case, I guess we can move on.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nishant.
We now have Vasundharaa Geotechnologies, which mines critical remote sense data derived from satellites, aerial platforms, and field sensors. Their proprietary deep learning algorithms analyze biggest and heaviest data sets in the short time and provide accurate insights for a diverse range of applications to unveil impact, which is also their tagline. So inviting Advait Kulkarni, Director of Vasundharaa Geotechnologies, to present now.
Good afternoon. Hi. Thanks, Pawan, and thanks for Space Federation for giving me this opportunity. It is really great to present in the audience of Sudheer sir over here and such a large audience. I'll just quickly share my screen and go from there. So if my screen is visible, we are called Vasundharaa Geotechnologies. We've been operating, and I'll just talk very briefly. I'd like to talk about what we have done. But apart from anything, we would like to really take this opportunity to discuss what are the future upcoming opportunities. I think most of my fellow speakers have covered the mirage and range of opportunities that are out there with the Earth observation ecosystem. But I'd like to really touch upon what sort of opportunities we can harness by getting some data that has already been generated or has been generated over a long period of time, and we can really create some powerful applications using that. So our real motto was always to make geospatial a truly garden variety first step of any process, for any planning, for anything that happens. We would like to see geospatial becoming the first data point that everybody is looking for and is basing their plans on. We have been very active in the area of the B2G ecosystem, where we are collating, collecting, and creating applications with a lot of data that has already been generated for a long period of time by government agencies, and helping them making sense out of it, crunching their data, majorly digitizing the data in the first place in the least effort manner, and then connecting that to satellite data, to other geospatial data, and creating meaningful applications for them. With that, actually, we had a very good opportunity of working during the pandemic and helping the governments analyzing how the spread of patients was, where the spread of patients was, and that sort of a disaster in that sort of time, how could that be mitigated? So we were very actively involved with a lot of urban local bodies at the state level as well. And the third major leg of our motto is to create strong customer-centric automation. We want to create automation that is more meaningful for the customers, and not for technical people like the most of us in this audience, but we would want to make automation more meaningful for the audience or the end user is what we are concentrating upon. I think most of my fellow colleagues over here will really agree that currently we are in the stage of the iPhone moment, really, where the technology can be gotten back to the customers, to the end users, and with their help we can reverse engineer a lot of powerful applications and integrate a lot of very interesting stuff. So our journey, I'll just not very focus on this, but we've been operational since 2017, and we've successfully implemented deep learning and computer vision for the last 2 years, which can really be seen in the jump in the areas that we have analyzed over the past 2 years. These are some of the representative projects, and this sort of gives you an understanding that we have mostly worked with the government. Working with the government is very critical at times because the turnaround time has to be very fast. The accuracy of the data has to be very high, because especially with applications like urban development and forestry, and when we are looking at forestry, especially with high fidelity cities like Pune and Mumbai, square feet of here and there, an error of 1 to 2% can really translate to crores of rupees of up and down. So that has to be taken care of. We have worked with a lot of urban local bodies for creating their base data sets, and creating we have processes which can create vector data with full automation. So we had proposed this and introduced this to MRSAC as well, which we are still in conversation with for digitizing all the images that they have and creating base maps at a very fast pace. So that is something that we are constantly pursuing and constantly working with. I think I'll just run along and say that from my perspective, from my experience in the Indian as well as the global ecosystem right now, urban development, forest and environment, financial analysis, that includes your commodity market and market analysis, as well as insurance and other financial sectors, defense, of course, and GIS data integration for different small applications are mostly the 5 areas that have realistic sort of and realistic and large opportunities in the near future. Maritime, of course, is also a part, can be clubbed into environment, umbrella, but again, can be mostly these 5 areas are something that everybody can really pursue and bring their own perspective to sort of develop their own solutions in this area. What I really want to talk about right now, I mean, in just few lines, is that especially in the Indian ecosystem, where Vasundhara has the experience of working with the government, we find that typically, I'll also move to the next steps where this are my asks really, is that red tapes are a major issue when it comes to sharing data, sharing expertise, and sharing just talking to each other. And this has been a major problem intergovernmental departments as well. So one small example, well, I'll not name names and I'll also not name the departments, but we came across a situation where satellite data was already procured by one department. It was just to be requested by the other department. But we ended up buying the same data set again. I think that's really not required, just wasting resources like that. And many different governmental agencies have so much data already generated and are generating every day. I think if we just come along and just share that data along with the the satellite data that is getting generated, the geospatial data that is getting generated constantly, we can really come up with very, very powerful applications. It can be for any sector. It can be really for going towards just an example that we have been discussing with the PMRDA. It can be about people going on a portal, selecting the piece of land that they want to buy, and then also proposing the type of building that they want to build on top of it. And that can be fully automated, where they can select what, just go browse what sort of buildings are permissible for that land parcel, select that, and automatically it goes for permissions, and even the permissions is automated. So such a very powerful application can be built, which is customer centric, which is citizen centric. And this is, I mean, this is not just a utopian dream. This is actually, we are discussing with the PMRDA right now. But what this would require a very deep level of data sharing between everyone, and it's not just with the governmental agencies. It also is within our ecosystem. I mean, with all my colleagues and other people listening to this listening to this seminar, I think we can just join hands, share data. We can have our own NDAs and agreements between us, but just share data and create powerful applications. So that is truly what we are believing, and that is what we are working towards very vigorously for the last 4 years, and we'll continue doing that. We are majorly now also evaluating a lot of our technology with defense, with larger level of state players. And we hope to crack the boundaries between different agencies for sharing data, and also crack the barrier of different agencies letting startups work with them. So those are my few lines, and I'd be very happy to take questions. And after those questions, I also had a question for Sudheer sir, but I think that can come later.
Thanks for that. Thanks for outlining these very specific asks and the challenges that I assume a lot of us are facing with respect to data sharing. Any questions for Advait? Otherwise, Advait, if you have your question for Sudheer, so we can also take that in the meantime. Yeah, why don't you?
Yeah. So Sudheer sir, my specific question was again towards my ask as well. But would there be any way where startups could directly engage with the state application centers for taking on the work that they are already doing, but in a much efficient way, or maybe change the process? Because what we have experienced is that the set processes are set in such ironclad way that those cannot be changed. But there can be many different ways of doing it.
No, I agree with you. I could listen to your voice because no, because some of the things, even though I am from government side, I cannot talk as you talk so freely. But these hindrances are there. Basically, that is the reason now we are coming out with the solutions. Let us say at maybe a central level, the decision. That's what exactly what I told. The decision should come from maybe either central government or state government, but the implementation stage, when it goes using that paper, we have to make an ecosystem. The single window has to be constituted. Now off late, we are realizing that some gaps are there, lacunas are there. We are also discussing with the state governments, but directly rather we just taking up this task. What I thought is, if space kind of associations, because you have a free voice, you can tell very openly. If we start telling, then again differences will increase. This is one way of politically or diplomatically handling the situation. I do agree, but some successful stories are there, because other
I
people in
agree.
Telangana, you just see the people, they are directly encouraging the such kind of things. Directly they are deriving services from SatSure, such kind of people. But you are doing an amazing job in Maharashtra and this thing. No, your point, I was about to rake up this one. Probably I thought in my concluding remarks, if time permits, I will tell. One is collaboration. See,
So
unlike the industry, startups, like, no, it recalls me my old good old college days, when we new entrants, when come seniors will rag first, then they will take us to their rooms and feed us like their own brothers. Startups should go in a collaborative consortium approach. If that is there, your collective voice would be much better than any corporate. Market penetration in the market, because these are all the some food for thought I wanted to give it to SpaceFed. You start thinking the market penetration, as you rightly told. You have let's say locational advantages. Maybe you have understood your local government well, and the way you, when outsider goes to your area, and it may be difficult for them to penetrate into the market the way you have penetrated. And similarly, you, when you come to Bangalore or Telangana, probably the penetration would be difficult. That is dealing with the governments. So this one food for thought I just wanted to give to SpaceFed. Why don't you go in a consortium or collaborative approach, sharing the data, as you said, or sharing the tools, as I was telling yesterday, keeping your proprietary or your IPs intact, maybe on royalty basis. Let's say if you implement your application, maybe whatever the revenue that in a fair means. I think such kind of models, when you can think of, probably I think it will be a collective win-win game. Let us see at the end, whatever the conclusions that we say. Probably Pawan, I just put it across. I think you people have to discuss such kind of things beyond the boundaries, what I say. Such kind of things we have to think. But in a specific things are there, let us have an open discussion, not in the open forum like this, maybe one-to-one. If any possibilities are there through our ISRO centers, we at least try to plug the gaps.
thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Udvait and Sudheer sir. Pawan, I will request you to.
Yeah. So thank you, Sudhir sir. Basically, in fact, the whole purpose of SpaceFed is to build that collective voice. Thanks again for reiterating that. In fact, like we have noted down all the points which were mentioned, which is very useful. So moving forward, we now have Satyukt, which has developed proprietary algorithms processing multi-satellite imagery integrated with various on-field weather and market data points, which provide crucial insights on water resources, crop health, and risk monitoring, bundled with advisory services to various stakeholders in the agricultural sector. So inviting Tiaku, who is Chief Operating Officer at Satyukt, to present now.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity. Hope my screen is visible.
Yeah, we can see it.
So good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Kyagu from Satyukt Analytics. So we have been founded in 2018. Like we are working around different countries currently across 15 countries, and we are. So what we are generally doing is we are using a satellite data, as you was rightly mentioning, using a multiple satellite data, weather data, and with the help of the AI or ML technologies, we are providing the services for the agriculture, water resources, insurance, and risk related data insights. So for the agriculture sector, we are offering like these are the services we are offering about the health of the crop, yield estimations, acreage estimation, how much water is required, analyzing over the drought or the flood, and then weather forecast information, and is there any stress, water stress using the soil moisture. So for the in this presentation, maybe I will give you a little brief about one of our mobile applications. It's called a Set2 Farm, where we are giving the application directly to the farmers, where the farmer can put their farm and get the information about their farms of the satellite information, weather forecast for the particular crop, about the crop calendar information, or is there any pest forecasting information with the help of weather data, and nutrition advisory and the irrigation scheduling advisory. So yeah, short video, just giving a little demo of this. So here a farmer can add their farm. Once they can either walk around the farm if they are having difficulty in choosing the maps, or they can draw the boundaries using the draw option. Once their farm is entered, they can even fill it for the somebody who don't have the Android phones. Then once the farm is there, they can get the information about the farm, the weather data. They can get the satellite information. Here we can see the information on the. So what are the crops they have, and what is the variety of the crop, what is the sowing date. This details we take from the farm, and based on the type of the crop, we use the crop calendar. And also they can upload if there is any pest attacks in the, they can upload the photos, and we offer the advisories to that. And also we give advisory based on the type of the crop. So the satellite information like soil moisture, health of the crops, and the weather forecast for the next 5 days. These are the things we are. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Tiaku. Are there any questions for Tiaku? Thanks for sharing that video that takes us through how your solution helps farmers in the agriculture sector. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box.
Okay, so I think moving forward, started by former NASA Earth scientist, Niruthi provides field level information needed by farmers to better manage their crops. Currently, it serves over 1 million farmers and over 20 million hectares of croplands. So inviting Short Kateva, Head of Strategic Partnerships at Niruthi, to present now.
Hi, thank you so much, Pavan, and thank you so much, Sudheer, sir, first of all, for giving us the guiding direction and the context for the whole 1 hour session that we've been having so far. Let me just very quickly start sharing my screen. Just a moment. I hope the screen is visible now, hopefully.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, so great. So in the interest of time, I think I'm just going to try and keep the presentation a little brief. I know a lot of us have been patiently with us, paying full attention for the last 1 hour, and thank you all the participants as well. So very quickly about Niruthi. Essentially, Niruthi is an agri-tech company. We've been working in this space for the last 2011. In fact, that's when we started our organization. Our vision has largely been to bring scalable and cost-effective remote sensing-based solutions and create an impact in the agricultural sector and the livelihood of the people working in this sector. So that's largely what we've been trying to focus on, primarily agriculture sector, as opposed to some of my other delegates who give their presentation about their organization. We're based out of Hyderabad. We also have a strategic partnership with another institution called CropSnap, which is led by a team of ex-NASA scientists. So so that's a little bit about our team. So what is it that we are trying to solve now? As we all know, India is an agrarian economy, and there are actually a lot of challenges that exist in the agricultural ecosystem. I don't need to share that in a lot of detail, but at every step, like from an input to the farmers to to taking the produce to the market, to storage, warehousing, logistics. I mean, you name it. At every step, there is a challenge, and we at Niruthi realized that one of the common challenges, probably a common thread that links all of these challenges together, is the lack of data. And we see that there's a lot of data asymmetry that exists today in the market. Data that is related to agricultural activities is either not available, or even when it is available, the amount of time it takes for it to reach the key stakeholders is quite long. And so Niruthi is trying to solve that problem. And the other thing that we have seen is that this data asymmetry actually impacts all the various stakeholders. Now, one of the reasons why today insurance is available for an individual, there is a specific plan, but for a farmer, there is no farmer-specific insurances, because the insurance companies don't have farmer-specific information. Likewise, why do the farmers need to depend on other modes of lending mechanisms rather than institutional lending? Is primarily because the banks just don't have the risk assessment capabilities. They don't have the enough information about the farmers. That's one of the key reasons why that is happening. So it's not a problem for just one or two stakeholders, but it's actually cross-sectoral problem. It's touching across all the sectors, all the stakeholders within the sector itself. So how do we solve this problem? The idea is really to the ideal solution would be to build a scalable, inexpensive, and a reliable solution that provides data in a timely fashion, right? And that's exactly what Niruthi does. And we've built a 360-degree, a very unique data to decision kind of a platform, and that benefits all the stakeholders, pretty much all the stakeholders that function within the agricultural ecosystem, be it the insurance, be it the banks, government, even the input markets, or even the commodities, etc. So instead of giving you a detailed view of what we do and what are some of the products, actually I thought it'll be great if I could just play a quick video and give you a sneak peek of the kind of product, the way it looks and what it functions. So let me just try and do that over here. Let me just play this video and let me know if the audio is audible. If not, then I'll just give an sort of a narration.
Introducing ZipAg Farm, a tool that allows high-resolution risk assessment and provides farm-level insights. Simply type the area code of interest in the search box and hit the search button. This brings up the land use information and the satellite and climate record for the area of interest. Information about current and historical crop productivity can be gathered from the time series of NDVI. The crop productivity of the current area can be easily compared to that of the neighboring areas for the current and historical time period. The productivity risk for the current area can also be easily diagnosed from the time series. Similar information can be obtained about climate variables such as precipitation, maximum temperature, and minimum temperature. Both historical and climate projections to 2100 can be compared to neighboring regions and to the whole district. Current weather conditions and the weather forecast for the next 10 days can help estimate changes in crop conditions. Information can be loaded at the farm level, where individual fields and the crops grown are automatically identified, and individual field analytics can be loaded for current, historical, and forecasted conditions. Similarly, the information can be loaded for the larger region, the country, or district, and compared to neighboring regions.
So as you can see, actually using a product, there are a lot of applications using a product that we have. Our clients actually, by virtue of accessing this product, are not just able to get a macro level insight, but are also able to get information on a micro level. And what they're able to see is not just on a particular farm field, how the performance of the crops is happening, but also compare it with the neighboring areas as well, neighboring fields, neighboring districts, and compare it to pretty much virtually any other place within the country as well. And the best part is all of this is happening at a click of a button for our customers, right from their offices. They don't need to do any field visits as such anymore. And all of this is happening on a near real-time basis as well.
Introducing ZipAg Farm,
So I'm sure you must be wondering, how do we do it? And I thought that I'll just give you a quick overview of what we do and how do we function. So we actually use a TOPS model, which is a terrestrial observation prediction system developed by NASA. And what we've done is we've used that as a base, and we've customized it for the Indian landscape. And using that, we are able to input multiple sources of information, multiple sources of data. We are using satellite data, we're using weather data, ground data as well, historical climate data, also current weather data as well, and other sources as well from Internet of Things. And we are able to combine that all together. So I mentioned about ground data. One of the other things that we have is something called CropSnap, which is our proprietary technology. It's a mobile app that we've developed. We've been using it for quite some time. In fact, for over 6 years now. What this allows us to do is not just geotag and geosync the location of the farmlands, but also just by merely taking 3 photographs of a farm field, a farmer is able to gauge, provide first of all the ground truthing, or capture the information from the ground and validate the predictions provided by the model, but also provide it in addition as an input to the model itself. So that's what we are able to do for our technology. But there's also an additional benefit for the farmers, because we are using the same technology as a different interface for the farmers to be able to use it for their farm fields. The other thing, once we've inputted all the information, we now then use our ML machine learning programmings and AI algorithms that we have developed, and we then are able to provide actionable insights which are very accurate to the farm level. And we are able to predict a lot of different information. So stuff like what crops are sown in a particular district, as you saw in the video, in a particular state, in a particular district in the country. We are able to gauge the acreage of a particular crop throughout pan-India on a both, like I said, macro and a micro level, how the agriculture season is progressing on an overall level, the health of the crops, the pests, damage assessment if there's been a natural calamity, and a lot of other insights that we're able to come up with. The best part is it's actually actionable insights. So these are not just data points that we're able to gather, but we're able to use those data points and be able to give information that can be consumed by our customers, including the farmer. So what are some of the applications for our product? I'll just highlight a few. In fact, there are many, many more, but for the interest of time, I'll just keep it short. And we are able to generate location-specific, obviously current and historical data. So data from, we're proud to say, in fact, the weather information that we are able to provide is almost at a village level. So that's at a 3x3 kilometer grid, and that's the kind of scale that we are able to downscale the information to. We are also able to provide, crop acreage, like I mentioned before. So basically to tell you which kind of crop is being grown in which part of the country, both at macro and micro level. Plus also we provide mid-season, crop forecasting and predictions. So also before the end of the season, we are able to give the real-time estimates or a very close estimates of what the yields are expected to be. So also the crop yields, and if there's a, like I said, if there's a natural calamity of some sort, of there's a hail or any sort of a damage that has happened, so helping companies, insurance companies, the government to track damage assessments as well. And in addition to that, we're also able to tie in the alerts and advisories based on the changing weather. If there's a sudden change in the weather itself, then we are able to push those alerts to our farmers and also for some of the other customers who might be interested in it. There are actually multiple other applications to it, but for this presentation, I'm just going to cover these, and that's pretty much it from my end. And I think I'll just open it for questions. And once again, thank all of you for letting me this opportunity to give the presentation of what we do.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for telling us about Niruthi's work and its very farm-centric approach. Are there any questions for Shroth? Please feel free to put them in the chat box.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible. I don't
I've
see any
actually
questions.
lost the audio, so I am not able to hear for some reason.
Oh, we can hear you.
Okay, I think we can move forward. So first of all, thanks a lot for very informative presentations by 7 startups. I think like very different. Each one has their own unique solutions, and very good to learn, and also like the inputs given to the government. I think very good. So firstly, I'll just quickly outline some of the notable points from the presentations, and also open up the stage for Sudheer sir for his final comment. So one of the some of the few points which were mentioned is like requesting ISRO to provide access to their data, specifically India data, through cloud in the API format as a grant to new startups. I think this is a very new way of thinking. So providing data as a grant to startups, and also ISRO can explore research partnerships such that space data startups can leverage ISRO's expertise. I think a lot of work is being done at the government level also to enable this right now. And also like our government can support startups by buying data, so like one of the examples quoted, the government almost committed in the US, $950 million dollar worth of data, right? So that way, and to just a 2-3-year-old startup, right? So that is the kind of government in some way can support startups by buying unique data, which for example they don't have access to, etc. And sharing data from ISRO, even for whether for fishermen, and also like for the communication in deep sea, instead of, so that the dependency on data abroad, or like having more data within India is possible. And also like removal of red tape in data sharing within government, and also very open collaboration for sharing data among startups as well, so that more more collaboratively unique solutions can be built for the final customers. And also a collaborative consortium way, something like what SpaceFed is trying to do is a way forward to tackle issues with the government, for solving for the startup. Right. So with this, these are I think the most notable points which we have heard from the speakers. With this, I'll leave the floor open to Sudheer sir for his final comments.
Thank you, Pawan. I think most of the things covered. I think that's whatever the data, that remote sensing data policy, I think will bring in more clarity. I think that is in the final version of approval. Once remote sensing data policy comes out, single window concept, and we have sought the public opinion also, and a lot of feedbacks have come. I think soon we will get into that track of easing out getting the data at very nominal or subsidized or some kind of this thing. But anyhow, startup, whatever the privileges startups are enjoying as per the government of India guidelines, we have been telling that the same privileges they will get when compared to other MSMEs or corporates. A couple of thoughts I just wanted to 3 or 4 points I wanted to add. See, if you take the spectrum of all startups, some people are in the launch vehicle development, some people are in satellite, some people are in ground stations, some people are in applications. Why don't we generate first, let us say, business for within yourself? See, this is one concept, because that will ensure you for starting up initial hiccups. Because what happens is, otherwise, yes, when one satellite or two satellites require and when maturity has not taken place, I do agree. You can still depend on the national space agencies' launch vehicles. But tomorrow, when the space transportation system policy is also on, that has also come to public opinion soon, that also may get converged. Probably, I think the business have to be interchanged between Indian startups, so that first sustainability will be ensured. After that, global marketization, market penetration to the global market. Once sustainability is ensured, then only you can get some breadth and you can opportunity, you can look for some kind of advancements. Please think this in this view. Some thinking should go on within the SpaceFed. Then what help you expect from corporates? Not necessarily that everything you can do on your own, because some people, some corporates, without taking risk, they are ready to invest a huge amount as long as they are getting their ROI done. So with that one, a cross discussion maybe with the SpaceFed, because this I am talking only in the association point of view. Why? Because the collective synergy that you people develop is much more than the corporate energy. Okay, see, let us say I can tell L&T, they are ready to let us say design a launcher, portable launcher. I can connect them to you, because when you have your own let us say launch vehicles, several launch vehicles, you are there, Agnikul is there, Valence Space, something like that, they are coming up with their own model. Okay, you have your own models, your own launch vehicles, your own market, but collaborative approach will help for sustainability. You please, and what help you require. And another day, I think October 4th, Satellite Industry Association, they are coming out for developing another satellite industry within India. I have also recommended them to give one slot to startups. So they have dedicated one slot to exclusive startups. We can have a discussion, maybe Pixxel, SatSure, such kind of people who are into the satellite through space, such kind of people who are into the satellite building, ground station building. You can come and exchange your ideas, what you expect from the let us say ecosystem. You can just put it forth. This is another important area. What help you require from corporates, that you please come out. And I am just thinking, let us say maps by India or maps of India, I can go and I can look out, I can create my own name of the building. Like that, is there any possibility that you make an open system, like what Vasundharaa was explaining, and other people, Katava is also explaining. You can look your own delimiters for your own assets and declare. See, tomorrow the data collection is very Herculean task. With a stroke of pen, government may decide, yes, we will take the data. That data may not be the final data. Let us say I will clear my own plot. I can put the boundaries. I can say that this belongs to Sudheer and this is the survey number. Tomorrow, let us say somebody verify it and somebody approve it. That is not an important thing. So that probably the mechanism, since government is not in a position to extend, so they will be lagging behind, or they will be taking a back seat. Okay, it is a Herculean task. We will see later. This all e-pass system government is introducing. So many systems digital under Digital India program, but data collection, data assimilation, this is very Herculean task. Probably you can think in that line to make some software available that user himself can feed his asset and his credentials without disclosing other details. But tomorrow, at least that will become a base data for government to log on and to verify and approve. Okay, then the venture capitalists, you may have to, because within industry, within startups, one weak startup may be there, one strong startup may be there. Weak startup also requires some funding, and strong startups may not require funding. But when you go approach venture capitalists as a collective thing, probably I think venture capitalists will look into the assurance or risk model combinedly. They would not look at individually. Probably in that light, because you have a let us say a responsibility to help the weak startups also, maybe initial stage. their technology risk is more, their technology understanding other things are less. Probably this cross-functional knowledge sharing should take place. Even we are ready to extend our own retired people, they are there. We can commonly organize some kind of training sessions, because especially navigation front, okay, inertial systems. These are areas very peculiar to the launch vehicle design and satellite design. Okay, such kind of things, even if you require, we can ask our own people to share the knowledge with you for a collective, let's say, collective industry. Not that because individual industry, everybody links up with the individual professional, it may be difficult for anybody to share the same thing to many people many times. Okay, such kind of knowledge sharing on exclusive areas can be thought of. I think SpaceFed can look into that. Remote areas are very specific areas, niche areas where knowledge is required. Resource personnel, who are the resource personnel available, you can look into. I think these are some of the ideas I thought. And Startup India is coming up for the next round. I think incubators are completed. I want any people, because last time when I had a discussion with startup, I told them this 2 to 3 years is very difficult. They also agreed, but they wanted to see the response and then start looking into that one. Probably I think people should be encouraged to register their new ideas for the Startup India. Incubators, couple of incubators are showing a lot of interest. If you can find your own incubator, no issue. If you cannot find an incubator, you can just write it to me. And we can also discuss with several people who can help you out. So these are all the few points from my side. Probably I think thanks for giving me an opportunity to listen to all these energetic new young guys. I'm very happy. Over to you, Paul.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, sir. In fact, special thanks to you for taking time to join us and actively engaging with us. Thanks for always supporting and enabling the startups and sharing your insightful thoughts on collaboration between startups and also with corporates for sustainability. With that, we'll conclude the session. Also, thanks to the chiefs and representatives from Numerate, Blue Sky Analytics, Pixxel, SatSure, Vasundharaa, Satyukt, and Niruthi for joining us today. Inputs from this webinar shall be submitted by SpaceFed officially to Department of Space. Thanks to all the future entrepreneurs, the space enthusiasts, government officials, and all professionals who attended the webinar today. Thanks to all volunteers of SpaceFed in helping put this out together. And Tejaswini from Blue Sky Analytics for organizing this webinar very gracefully. I think we had no glitches throughout the webinar. Thanks to you. And wish you all a great weekend ahead, and look forward to further events later on. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.